Welcome everyone to the Radio Toons podcast. How's it going?
Going good, man.
I'm Steve.
I'm Ernie.
We saw the most hyped up movie of last week.
Oh, of last week? Okay.
Yeah, the greatest thing that happened to cinema last week.
Last week.
I
would give you that because
actually I think it
Lost
came out,
World. What is it called? The second
Fallen Kingdom.
Fallen Kingdom. That was like number one for 2 weeks, and I think this is going to be the first week.
I actually think Ant-Man came out 2 weeks ago.
It came out last week, dude.
Oh, okay. Well, speaking of 2 weeks ago, we real quick before we get into all the Ant-Man spiel, because I'm sure you all know this is what it's about. We went to Lost Levels, our boy Steve's shop, Lost Levels,
downtown Fullerton.
Yeah, they were having like a little retro gaming thing,
like a little festival. It's called SC3.
Yeah, I didn't know what it was called actually, but it's like he took some of the arcade cabinets outside. Mm-hmm. He had them out there, and they were running like a Street Fighter tournament. Mm-hmm. And then they had a bunch of vendors, just kind of like the swap meet. They just got their
it wasn't. It was great because it wasn't a lot of like pro sellers. It was just people like what I mean by pro sellers is like if you go to any swap meet now, there's one dude who sells retro games and he like charges up the ass for it.
Oh yeah, he's eBay prices.
eBay prices, right? The guy is there. Like I was checking my prices like on eBay because I was just kind of looking all the stuff up. They had below eBay prices because everything was kind of like what you see is what you get.
They were all pretty friendly dudes too.
Yeah.
So like when you were bundling stuff together, you were just like, give me a deal on this, and they were kind of, with the exception of a few things that like some people there were actually selling like real merchandise,
right?
Like that they have made or something. So you obviously can't haggle.
Yeah, some people had painted.
Can't haggle that stuff, but older like retro stuff. Like we got F-Zero GX for like $20.
Yeah,
the guy had it for like
again,
$30.
If you look it up, it's probably closer to $30-$35.
Yeah.
And then I bundled Beautiful Joe 2, and Soul Calibur, all of these on the GameCube. And I got it for like $10 each.
Yeah.
Because I think Beautiful Joe is worth a little more, or Soul Calibur was worth a little more. But once I bundled them, he was like $10 each. You're good.
Pretty good, yeah.
Yeah. Some people had smaller, more collectible stuff. Like one dude had what are they called? The things that go above the arcades.
Marquees.
The marquees. He had the marquees for a bunch of different games, and when we passed, he had a lot, and then when we were on our way out, he had definitely sold a couple. I was a little jealous.
Yeah. It would have been cool if he had a Third Strike one, but whatever.
I will say not everybody was as, shall I say, aware of eBay prices.
Okay.
Because one dude was selling like a bunch of N64s. And I think for this teal blue see-through N64, he wanted like $140.
I mean, I'm sure that's what they go for. I
don't think so, Steve. I
don't
think
know.
They go for less.
You know what's weird about like those different color N64s though? Anytime I see them, I just want all of them. Like I'd rather have the rainbow. I don't just want one in my house. It looks weird just by itself, and it's hard for me to pick one color.
Yeah,
but like when people have them on display, like the whole array of them, I'm like, yes, that looks badass. I want that in my house. Like all of them.
I think the only one that really calls out to me that I would have myself. I believe they made an orange one, orange see-through one. That's the one I would want.
Well, they actually make like people just custom make like a bunch of them now, because we saw a few there. There was like a lime green, like a neon green, like see-through one, and I was like, that's definitely not official. It looked like too bright.
Yeah, it looked like whenever you go to a state fair or something. All the cups are just plain old red Solo cups, or they're clear cups, and then anything with alcohol in it has to be that weird neon green cup.
Okay,
so you can spot who's drinking and who's not.
Oh, okay, I guess, yeah. Well, that's so you can tell who's playing and who's not, or
they should be over 18. Exactly.
I don't know.
It was crazy. I really liked the festival only because, like, for example, they had that section, and it was kind of managed on its own. But then Steve had set up not only the arcades outside, but he'd also set up a bunch of just... I don't know if it was him or one of the vendors, but they essentially set up some emulation stations for the different systems.
Well, they were just the consoles, but they had like their own little setups.
Well, the setups all had R4 microchips in
Well,
them.
yeah, they're not R4s, but they're whatever.
Well, people know what I mean when I say R4.
They're it's like I didn't even know those existed, by the way. It's like picture a Nintendo 64 cartridge with an SD card slot at the top,
right?
And it looked pretty jank. It didn't look like
it looked super jank.
But yeah, we were playing Smash Brothers and it worked perfectly.
Yeah.
So it was actually like wow. I was like,
Steven and I jumped on Super Smash Brothers, and I don't know if you know this, guys, but Steve's pretty good at Super Smash Brothers. I'm pretty good at it as well. And so we were playing just me and him, and we were getting pretty competitive. But then people were like, "Hey, yeah, let me jump in there."
Yeah.
As soon as somebody jumped in there, a little crowd started forming and everything, and then you and me kept being the winners of the whole thing.
Yeah.
And we had people drop out and come back.
We were basically beating everybody's ass.
Just
no, I'm
beating
just kidding.
people's asses. We felt like this is what it feels like to be good at something.
It was funny though because we were standing there for like 45 minutes.
Yeah, and my hand hurt afterwards.
I was like, "There's so much stuff to look at here, and we're just sitting here playing Smash." We're like, we could do this at home, and we're
but that was near the end, and I think we started to. I think we were gonna go like right around the time that the band was gonna set up SNES Madness.
Yeah.
They were going to set up to play, and we were going to leave just because we had been there for about almost 3 hours. So I think we were pretty tired.
That was actually cool. I've never heard of this band. I don't know what they play, but they started doing
I'll give you one guess.
They were they were doing like a tune-up or something. They were just like testing their instruments and sound and all this stuff. And I just forgot like what real instruments sound like. You know, like they started playing and I was like, oh man, like that sounds so cool. Like
remember when I was cool and went to concerts?
I used to play drums a lot and like I forget what it sounds like when music is live. It was cool though. It was definitely a fun thing to do. I wish we could have stayed longer.
Yeah, because if you went into his arcade, I think he had brought more arcade systems into his little. He had like a one.
It was like a one-time entry fee, and then you get to everything was on free play in there.
Right.
So it was yeah.
It was pretty packed in there too. We got to go there, and he kind of was like, "Hey, come in and drop some flyers here." So dropped off some of our flyers. So if any of you are listening from that, hey.
Oh yeah, that's true. Welcome new listeners. I'm talking to you, just the one that got the flyer. We got to rework that flyer a little bit. I like it, but thinking about changing stuff up. Whatever. Anyway,
good times. Thanks, Steve, for inviting us.
I say we just hop right into this Ant-Man conversation.
Okay.
Ernie, what did you think of Ant-Man and the Wasp?
I liked it. I think it was. I think a lot of people have been using this term palate cleanser.
Okay.
Because if you've been watching everything up until now, the last movie you saw was
Infinity War,
and that ended. Spoilers, obviously, but it ended on a downbeat. It was like the Empire Strikes Back or something, So I was pretty
that's kind of a good way to describe it. Yeah.
Yeah, I was kind of bummed at the end. And then you come into Ant-Man and the Wasp, and Paul Rudd's he's a funny dude.
Yeah.
And then the last one, it was pretty funny, and you got that Pena guy who's like, okay, here's what happened, see? Blah, blah, blah. So it's it's more comedic.
Michael Pena.
Yeah. He's cool, and the whole premise is pretty funny. Especially with all the shrinking and like they carry around all their getaway cars in a Hot Wheels wheel. And it's fun. But
overall, what did you think it was better than the first one?
I thought it was better than the first one.
Okay.
But I actually liked the first one a lot, so it's not by much that I like the second one. I think I like the second one more because Wasp, you see what she's all about now, and she kicks so much ass in that movie that I was like, dude, man, imagine if they had her on all these different imagine if she was in Infinity War, that would have been badass.
Yeah. Okay. So that's for people that are wondering what the timeline is like.
Yeah.
This movie happens a little bit before or during Infinity War.
Yes,
right?
It happens during Infinity War.
Because it's supposed to explain why they're absent in that film, basically.
Right. Essentially, Ant-Man, it starts off with Ant-Man being under house arrest because of what he did in in Germany.
Yeah.
When he went all big and he stopped.
Yeah.
Tony Stark from taking
when he went to Civil War and he stole the show. It was a highlight of the film for me.
So he got under house arrest for 3 years. So he has to be home. So basically, he can't leave the house. And he pissed off his girlfriend.
I guess that's why it explains why he's not fighting Thanos too. He's
right. But he's his Wasp is pissed at him, and Hank isn't talking to him because he didn't tell them he was going to go fight with Captain America. Essentially,
right. Let me just say real fast.
Here we go.
So I went to go see this movie at 10 in the morning. I'm not a morning person. I don't like waking up ever. Sleep is essentially dying for a few hours and then coming back to life. So I love sleep. I just like being...
I can personally attest that Steven is not a morning person. Anytime we've ever had to do anything in the morning, that old stupid idiom that you see around the office, don't talk to me until I get my coffee, that's pretty much what
Or
Steven
after the
does.
coffee, you know?
Just don't talk to me until like 3 o'clock in the afternoon.
Just leave me alone, you know? But so I woke my ass up at like 9 o'clock because my friend was like, dude, I have time in the morning. Let's just go squeeze in the movie real fast at like opening weekend or whenever the fuck, right? So I went and we got there like right before the movie started and we were watching the previews and I was just like, I am fucking done with theaters. There's like kids sneezing in here.
Was it packed?
It was actually pretty packed for fucking 10 a.m. Right?
The tickets were like what, $6?
Yeah, they were really cheap because it was Sunday at 10 a.m.
Yeah.
And so the trailers came on, and I'm groaning through these trailers because they're all fucking stupid horseshit trailers. Right. I forget what they were. But the movie itself, I was surprisingly pleased with. I was like, man, Ant-Man 1 wasn't even the greatest film to me. I was like, why am I sitting here? I'm just here to hang out with my boy. I don't even want to watch this movie. But,
shout out to your boy.
Yeah, shout out to Michael, my boy. But I was like super surprised at like the scale of the film, I guess I should say. No pun intended, because you know just the fact that it had more of everything. You know.
Yeah.
Like, so the amount of costumes. First of all, it wasn't just Ant-Man this time around. You have you got the Wasp too. You got Ghost. You got some other ones. We'll get into spoilers later, I guess. But like. A lot of costumes, the growing big and growing small thing or shrinking small, whatever. I feel like was doubled in this movie. There was double the amount of like.
Well, because there's no discovery of it anymore. So
yeah,
it's
exactly.
Like everybody understands these rules. We are able to make things big and small. So yes, we're going to use it in our daily lives.
That's like, I mean, you know, I respect the origin story, but like one of the reasons I like Spider-Man is because it's like no origin story. He's just in, you know. Like, you're already in, he already knows how to shoot his fucking web or whatever. It's like, we don't need to
because they've done it so many times.
Yeah, in Spider-Man's case, it's like, yeah, that's been told a million times. Oh, Uncle Ben, no one cares. But, like, Ant-Man was one where I was kind of like, maybe you don't even need the origin story, you know? Like, I just...
You kind of do.
You kind of do, but it's just, like, to me, I enjoyed this one so much more because it was already at that point where, like, he's well acquainted with his powers and he knows what he's doing. But not just that. I actually thought the humor was better in this film. I thought it
was pretty much the same as the other one. Like these little awkward pauses that Paul Rudd has in between things. Like when he's like, "Hey, can I have one of those Altoids?" And he's like, "Nope." And I was like,
but there was a purpose to that scene though too.
There's always a purpose to his jokes. Yes.
I don't know. Maybe. Okay. Maybe.
There is.
But yeah. Let me just say that I really enjoyed it. I actually I would highly recommend it. It's because to me, I don't know about anybody else.
Here we go.
But when I'm in the theater and I'm enjoying myself, like not masturbating, like when I'm like, that's what it sounded like. When I'm like visually enjoying something, like there's like lots of like there's a fucking car chase scene that's super cool in this movie that I wasn't even expecting. Like, so you throw a bunch of shit for me to look at in a movie theater, and I'm a happy dude, you know.
As long as it's set up correctly, yes, I agree with that.
It was action packed. There was not really dull moments, and it was an hour and 45 minutes, dude.
It's a short movie.
What a treat! Like
What a treat.
every fucking Marvel movie and like Star Wars movie is like 2.5 hours long, which is like, I get it, you know, you got to tell a story. That's fine, whatever. But
that's really what I enjoyed about the first one.
Just for Ant-Man to be like this little movie, no pun intended. Again,
you're making so many
I'm
puns,
sorry.
dude.
An hour and 45 minutes. I'm like, yes, this is just like it's like a little snack in between Infinity War and the second one, you know.
Yeah.
But should we just go into spoilers now? Because I want to talk about...
yeah, let's go into a little bit of spoilers. We'll start kind of in the beginning because it starts with, reminding you, it's pretty much telling you what the goal of the movie is right off the bat.
Okay.
So in the last movie, it was like, I lost your mother, I don't want to lose you too. That's why Paul Rudd's Ant-Man.
Uh-huh.
Right? So in this one, they're like talking about, he's like, they go back a bit and they're like, the little girl, your mom's gone. I forget what her name actually is in the movie.
They call her Peanut, but I think her name is something with a V. I don't know.
I thought he called her Jelly Bean.
Jelly Bean is the other one.
Okay.
Right.
Her dad calls her Peanut. She calls her Jelly Bean. They basically tell her, we lost your mother because if you remember in the first one, she goes in the quantum realm. So then
I don't remember that actually, but yeah.
Well, we're not going to go into that whole thing because it's going to take forever to explain. But anyway... So she's stuck in the quantum realm.
Uh-huh.
And then Hank was like, well, since Paul Rudd went in there and came out, now I know it's possible. So let's dust off the old quantum realm ship thing and let's do it.
Yeah.
And then they smash cut to Paul Rudd in his house.
Yeah.
He's like, I'm under house arrest, everybody. But he's still trying to like be a good father and stuff.
Yeah, and you know what? Okay, so there's like this little trophy that they steal or whatever in the beginning, and it says "World's Greatest Grandma" or something. It's a little trophy, and his daughter had given it to him, and it's like his most prized possession or whatever.
Right.
And I was asking Ernie, like, world's best grandma. I get the joke. It's like she didn't know what she was picking out. It's the last one they had or whatever. Mm-hmm. The kid's dumb or something. I don't know. I get the joke. But I was like, I want to say at one point in development, they were thinking, like, world's best aunt, right? Like, AUNT, like, because that's another, like... And
Don't you think that would have been too heavy-handed?
I don't know. I was wondering, like, I wonder if that was in the room at one point, you know? Like,
I think that the more you hear that one, the more it would become a groaner.
I guess,
I think at that point you would have been like,
No, yeah, I guess. So bravo to them for the amount of restraint. And I mean, maybe that leads to my point that, like, the humor, I think, was a little better in this one. It wasn't as, like... I wouldn't call the humor, like, lowbrow, but it just seems a little... Like, the parts with that... what's that agent? I forget his name. But the agent that comes to his house constantly to check on his house arrest.
Oh, the guy from Fresh Off the Boat?
Okay.
The Asian dude?
Is that... I don't know. Is that a show?
Yeah, it's a pretty famous ABC show now.
Well, yeah, that guy. Some of the parts with him were a little bit like, okay, I get it. They're doing like this Michael Cera like awkward.
Well,
like...
he wasn't stupid. He wasn't stupid. He was just a little awkward.
That like okay, so like the one of the first things that he says is like he's like, hey, what's his name? Is his name? What's Ant-Man's name?
Let's just call him Paul Rudd.
Paul Rudd. He's like, hey, tell me something, and he like leans in and he's like, how'd you do that magic trick? And I was like, oh, okay, that was kind of funny. Like, like this guy's like, he's like supposedly like the leader of like this fucking with the FBI or something, right? Yeah. But he's like an idiot or something. Like, it's kind of funny. Sure, why not?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know. Like the humor, like I said, it wasn't as like lowbrow. It was actually a little bit more surprising to me because I feel like the humor in the first movie was a lot of just Louise like being Mexican, you know, or like
I think you're wrong. I think in the first movie they only reserved that part of it for two specific scenes.
Okay,
in Ant-Man 1, but in this one they definitely downplayed him. Because he was trying to be like a legitimate business guy. They had their own security company
Ex-con,
going. Yeah. But I think the comedy came through when the three of them, Hank, his daughter, and Paul Rudd, when they were all together doing their... Like, the movie basically starts when they get together.
Yeah.
Again, like, they reunite because they're trying to do this quantum realm thing, and they need... Essentially, they need the old Ant-Man suit.
Yeah. Which Paul Rudd says he destroyed, but he didn't. He has it.
So they need that to get this thing working and blah, blah, blah. And that's when it really takes off because it's a lot of, you know, hey, I know I messed up, but forgive me, please. And they're just like, whatever.
That's why I say the movie's action packed, because it's like right at the beginning, he gets picked up in a car that's tiny.
Right.
Remember? I forget how he gets knocked out, but
he gets knocked out because the wasp stings him.
Yeah, new wasp stings him and.
And by the way, just since we're talking about wasp, I love that at the end of the first movie, there is a prototype wasp costume, which they could have easily used in this one, but they didn't. They came up with a new costume because they're like, this is what we were developing for your mom. But I think we were really making it for you. And then she's like, it's about damn time. So I like that they didn't just give it to her. It shows that there's been some time between that and now where they've tweaked the suit. I
feel like they always do that. Like, I wouldn't even be surprised if like Black Panther's suit in his movie and Infinity War are different, you want to
hear some continuity?
What?
At the end of Spider-Man Homecoming, that suit is the one that he wears in Ultron.
Are you sure, though?
I'm positive.
Okay.
I just saw it, and it's that same gold-trimmed Spider-Man
I was wondering that, too,
suit.
because I was like, it looks a little bit different, so I wonder if they tweaked it a little bit.
Maybe a little bit, but it's still the same kind of, like, black spider with the gold trim around it and everything. It's still that.
Well, anyway, okay, so the Wasp takes him in a little tiny car. And so it's, like, your first instance of, like, oh, shit, like, now everything... Now that
she's dope!
Now that technology is, like, ridiculous. Now, what's his name? Hank Pym? Now him and his daughter have created like ways to shrink everything, basically, which I thought was cool. I was like, this is cool that they're already showcasing like the miniature stuff, and they get to the building, and it turns out he can shrink the whole fucking building and stuff like that. I was like, this is cool, like nice. I'm glad there was like a lot more of this stuff.
Well, if you remember the first one, he was able to do that already, but without his daughter's help, I think there was less of an application to do it.
Didn't he just have the shrinking, like, tank discs or whatever? Yeah.
Well, he had the tank, remember?
What tank?
At the end of the movie when he's like, we're not going to die, and he has a little keychain with a tank on it.
Oh, yeah.
He's like, it's not a keychain. And he's just like, boo!
Yeah.
And he comes out. I just like it because it didn't feel like, look, we're going to shrink this building. Isn't it cool? It was a product of something that had to happen. They were hiding, so they had to be able to be mobile. Like, if they needed to move the lab at a moment's notice, they could. And same thing with the car. They needed different cars for different situations, so it's nice that they could shrink it down, put it in a thing, and then take off,
Yeah. The Wasp herself, that first scene where she gets to fight.
Yeah.
I was like, she's badass, dude. I was like, that's cool. I'm glad that they gave her like a lot of time to be on screen. I mean, I guess she's in the fucking title. She's gonna be in the movie half of it.
Yeah, but
I
she's
guess.
in the second part of the title and the Wasp.
Yeah, she's in yellow though. What's that about, huh? No.
This is the part of the movie where they introduce Ghost. And I liked Ghost as a bad guy.
I really liked her too. I'll say this about villains: the ones that are the best are the ones that have like real motivation, and the ones that actually have like an argument that you can almost be behind.
Right.
So like her whole thing is like, oh, she's molecularly unstable or something like that, right?
She's quote unquote phasing.
Yeah, and it's a result of like her parents dying in some kind of quantum explosion.
It was a machine similar to the one that they're trying to build.
Yeah.
And the explosion kind of, essentially, I think the way it's supposed to be is like in all these different realms around you, there's like different forms of her existing all at the same time. So it's like she's in 10 places at
different
once.
Dimensions or something, yeah. But it turns out that S.H.I.E.L.D. found her and said, hey, if you kill some people for us, we'll kill you, because we know you've been wanting to die all these years and you can't.
Is that what they told her? Or they said, oh, okay.
She said for the in exchange they said they would kill me, and they didn't. They kept using her to kill other people and all this stuff.
And that's when she found Lawrence Fishburne.
Oh, yeah, Morpheus is in this movie. I was like, what the heck? I love
seeing him in this movie. I don't know why that made me smile so big. I was like, oh, hey! Because
it's your boy.
It's something about using classically trained actors who have a pedigree that I really love. Like when they introduced Hank Pym in the very beginning of Ant-Man, I was like, dude, that guy's been around forever. He has like some real movie behind him, some real good movies behind him, and they use him for a very good role. They use him as like a mentor. Yeah,
like passing the torch kind of thing.
Exactly. And
I completely understand.
And when they show Lawrence Fishburne, and they were like, yeah, when me and Hank were, we were doing this Project Goliath or something, and that was his name, or like.
No, Goliath is the name of his dog in The Sandlot.
Oh, right. Hercules.
Hercules. Oh, that's right.
Yeah. But I
It's
like
not
that
even
they're...
Lawrence Fishburne. It's what's his fucking name?
Oh, it's the guy who played Darth Vader.
Just James
Dude,
Earl
you're
Jones.
so racist, dude.
I'm not racist. I just mix up actors. That happens.
When they start talking about their past and everything, it makes me wish there was a movie about them too, working, because it was like I was Giant Man, or no, I'm sorry, not Giant Man.
Something
no,
big.
Giant Man, something like that. And I was like, oh, there's a history there of like, one of the things I liked about Watchmen was there was this pedigree of old superheroes and now superheroes, and that's one of the things I love about the first Ant-Man is like he was Ant-Man for a long time.
Yeah.
So it's been a tested thing, and now he has to kind of live up to that.
It's almost like Batman Beyond or something, you know?
Kind of, yeah.
Like
it has that feeling to it. And then you find out that Lawrence Fishburne is trying to help Ghost by like helping find a cure for this phasing thing.
Yeah, and that's another reason why you kind of feel for her, because Lawrence Fishburne, who like seems like a good guy, you think like
he is a good guy.
He is, but there's a moment there where he kidnaps them, and you're like, oh, is he is he a dick? Is he a bad guy? Like, what's going on here?
Right.
But then you learn like he has a reason. She was like a child, that had powers, and he was just trying to help her out this whole time, and he keeps her like in this chamber thing that like helps her stabilize and stuff. So they have like real reasons to do what they're doing. It's not just like they're like, oh, what is it? Some people want to watch the world burn, or whatever. Like, no, it's not that. It's actually like they're fucking people with emotions, and they have reasons to do things. Anyway.
By the way, just a really quick little quip. I love that in this movie, because it's allowed to be a little more. It's more of a humorous movie. I love that when they walk, they're gonna go see Lawrence Fishburne because he's like, there's only one man who knows about phasing, and they go to see him, but when they go to see him, all they have is hats and sunglasses. And then Ant-Man's like, dude, this is not a disguise, this is just us with hats and a shade. Of course they're gonna know who we are. And it's poking fun at the fact that in every single movie where the superheroes have to be undercover, that's all they do.
Yeah.
And it's like, of course you can spot them with just that.
Well, yeah, because if anybody in the Marvel universe is gonna
hide out,
no
hats and some sunglasses.
Well, I was gonna say if any other characters were to like kind of put that on blast, it would be Ant-Man, right? Because he's the comedic one.
Because he's the comedic one.
I mean, even more.
And funnily enough, they do spot them.
Yeah.
They do get spotted, and then the guy from Fresh Off the Boat comes over and he's like, "Hey, we heard Ant-Man and his buddies were here," and he's like, "I don't know what you're talking about."
Yeah.
I hate that guy. I hate him.
You know what? What's kind of cool too? It's like I'm getting a bit ahead of myself too, but how they introduced that he does like magic tricks in the beginning and stuff.
Yeah.
Even the way they use that at the end is kind of like, oh, okay, like why not? Like
foreshadowing.
Yeah, like why not? Like they it seems like they could have even put that in afterwards as an afterthought, and it just kind of fit in with the movie and made it all kind of seem like it was like I don't know, like cohesive and like just a well put together, like there
was a lot of
like a good ass sandwich,
Yeah,
like,
yeah. There was plenty of foreshadowing. There was a lot of themes that went through the entire movie about keeping families together, because essentially that's what they do. And then Lawrence Fishburne and Ghost become a family.
Yeah.
At the very end, Ant-Man and the Wasp, they find their family essentially.
I don't know who plays Ghost. I usually do research before I get on the podcast, but this week has been fucked. So I don't know who plays her, but she was a really good actor. I thought
she was really cool.
She was very intense. I think
that's kind of what the
character is.
The character is definitely.
I had never even heard of that character actually in the comics or anything like that. So this was a new like thing to me in general. I don't think I'm the only one who doesn't know who the fuck Ant-Man villains are, right?
Well, that's why I think that that's what I mean. It's like, that's why he kind of needed his origin story, because nobody really knows about him.
Okay.
One gripe I do have about the movie is there's a big loose end in the whole movie.
Okay.
Which, not huge, but it's big enough where it was mentioned several times. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, what? Are you going to tell us who that is? While they are trying to build this kind of little quantum realm transporter thing, they're getting these parts from this dude in like this white suit.
Oh, that's right, yeah.
And he keeps saying, you know what? I don't want to disappoint the person who I'm working for. It's not somebody you disappoint. Yeah. And he says that several times in the movie, alluding to somebody who's very important.
Maybe it's
who's very dangerous.
Maybe it's Kingpin.
I mean, I guess it could be, but they never kind of make. Well, I don't know if it would be, Steve, because they're in San Francisco. Okay. They're not in New York.
Yeah, I don't know. You know what though? That guy actually was like.
And by the way, that's why they don't see the events of New York.
Oh, because they're not there.
Yeah, they're not there.
That guy actually did add something to the movie.
Oh, totally.
He was like that whole like. I mean, movies follow this kind of trope where it's like, okay, there's some treasure here, and there's people chasing it, and they keep just like winding in and out of like, oh, I got it, now I got it, now I got it, kind of thing.
Yeah, it's like Romancing the Stone. It's
like another Michael Douglas movie, right?
There you go. Well, that's why I mentioned it.
And yeah, especially at the end when all their roads kind of intertwine, and it's almost like it kind of reminded me of like Rat Race or something, you know, when everyone's like they all want that same thing, and then it's like,
which is why that particular part kind of was like, are they going to tell us who that is? Because in Rat Race, everything kind of wraps up.
Yeah.
So you get these all like this all-encompassing end, so you know where everything's going. That was kind of the only standout. Where you didn't know what that was going to happen to them, and
okay. I mean, I didn't really care. If I'm actually going over like gripes with the movie, I didn't really understand the whole like telepathic like quantum energy thing that the old Wasp gave Paul Rudd.
Yeah, I didn't get that either.
That part of the movie, I was like,
I don't know how he took over his brain.
In my head, I was just kind of thinking like, okay, so this is like an excuse for Paul Rudd to just be Paul Rudd, which is fine. You know, like, I was honestly like, you know, maybe it was like the theater effect. You know, like laughing is contagious, but people were laughing at that scene, and I was like, okay, just give him a fucking break, you know, whatever. Just let him do his thing.
It's like our first fight.
Yeah.
And it was like he was holding hands with Hank Pym, and I was like,
yeah.
Okay. That was a part that I was a little miffed at, because, like, that whole part where he goes in the quantum realm and comes out, and he's like, she left you a note in your head. Uh-huh. So it's been stuck in his head for 3 years? Because he has the dream and calls them. Yeah. And that's why they come pick him up.
She called him because apparently that's the only time when something aligned. And remember, she says something like,
something about that, yeah, because they turned on the machine.
She says
they turned on the machine.
If we don't do it now, we'd have to wait for like a century or something.
No, yeah, right. But what I'm saying is, like, the explanation given in the movie is that you went into the quantum realm 3 years ago. It was the last time anybody's gone in. Uh-huh. And then we turned on this machine, and then 5 minutes later you call me about some dream. So something about them turning on the machine triggered that. And I'm still like, okay, so triggering the machine made him have a dream about your mom, and then when you turn on the machine again, she takes over his body.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like, those are the details that I don't really understand. But at the same time, I obviously like to nitpick shit, but that's the kind of stuff that I'm just like, if you don't want to explain science stuff to me in films, I am okay with that. I don't care.
Yeah.
I
mean, again, this is a gripe, but I already said that I really love the movie.
Like, there's certain things in movies where I'm just like, you know what? Just don't bother even trying to explain it. I don't give a shit. Like, if you're worried about plot holes, I mean, like, do your best, but as long as the movie is fucking fun to watch, I don't really care.
I think one of the best examples of that is, what's that movie? Inception.
Yeah, Inception, I don't know if they do explain it, but I just remember them opening up that case and sticking tubes in their heads or whatever.
That's all you get.
And they're just like, we can go into dreams, and I'm like, cool, all right.
Just do it.
I'm in, fine, I don't care.
How does a dream work? It works like a maze. All right.
Cool.
Sure. Cool.
Is that movie still good?
Yeah, I've watched it recently.
I remember watching it in theaters and being like,
Bwah. I hate that, though. That does not hold up. That whole Bwah.
Hans Zimmer?
Yeah, the kind of music just doesn't hold up.
He did the music for Boss Baby, so he's okay by me.
Boss right. Baby, Steve?
Yeah.
Boss Baby.
Yeah.
That's what you're going to
go
with?
It's a great film.
All right.
Better than Inception,
Anyways.
I would say. Yeah, so they get kidnapped, and then they free themselves with the Altoid case. Turns out there's ants in there.
Oh, which brings me to another gripe. The whole... Okay, so Ant-Man told them, hey, I destroyed your suit.
Yeah.
Sorry, I can't get it back for you. But then Hank Pym's all like, can you go help out my daughter? I got a prototype suit. Here you go.
Uh-huh.
And gives it to him. But the suit's like on the jank.
It's on the fritz, yeah.
So he keeps pushing the button and he only shrinks halfway. But sometimes he shrinks all the way.
Yeah.
And then sometimes he shrinks to be too big.
Yeah.
It was a running gag throughout the movie, and I was like, I don't know how much this adds to the movie.
I liked it. I enjoyed it mostly because I was like, the scenes where he like gets huge and he's like cramped in a room. I'm like, this looks amazing. Like visually, I'm like, how do they even do this? She has like his head. There's a scene where she has like her head on his lap or something when he's all big, and I'm like, how the fuck do they even do this? Like cinema wise, how do you do that? I have no idea. Like him being short, maybe like they did it in Captain America. That's whatever.
Right.
The only thing I was I guess it's not really a plot hole, but I was like, if he would have turned like really small without his mask on, he would have died, right? Because the whole thing about the mask is that like air molecules are too big when you're small, so you'll die. And I
think the purpose of the helmet is that everything inside the suit will shrink. So it's not like he can grab you, push the buttons, and you'll shrink with him.
Right.
Everything within the suit gets miniaturized, and including the suit. So the helmet is there to shrink his head with the rest of his body. That's how I understand it.
I'm not sure if that's how. Well, I'm not sure.
He always has to have it on when he shrinks.
When he shrinks to a certain degree, because they said something about air molecules being big. Because even when he turns large, there's like something about like there's not enough oxygen because he's so big. That's why he gets tired or something. Something weird. Oh, okay, whatever. I don't know. But that was the only thing that I was kind of like, just put the fucking helmet on. But at the same time, I do understand it's like one of those things where it's like, you pay to have an actor in a movie, you have to show his face a lot. You know? Like apparently that's why they invented that whole look in Iron Man, where you see inside of his helmet and he has like the HUD in front of him. Right. Because they were like, you can't not have Robert Downey Jr.'s face in a movie. You have to show his face, so that's what they came up with. Which is like...
Which, by the way, looks fucking awesome. And there's been so many movies that copied that same shit.
Well, Spider-Man has something like that, right? When he puts on his Tony Stark suit, I want to say he has something like that.
So.
No?
No.
Okay.
So.
Well, anyway.
I think it's just his first-person perspective, but... I think Iron Man's the one that kind of pioneered it, and then now it's like whenever anybody does that, they're always like, "Oh, look at this! Look at the HUD."
I mean, sure.
But what's funny is like if you think about how that's set up, it's Robert Downey Jr. with a camera right in front of him, with all these black sheets just kind of glued to the back of his head, and he's acting.
Sounds cool to me. I
don't know about in this scene, you're attached to a jet talking to Terrence Howard. Go.
They have to do something like, maybe not, but I was gonna say they have to do something to kind of like have him react to it, right? Like if he was doing something like that,
it seems like it's pitch black and where he is. So I don't know what exactly it is, but that's
what I'm saying. Like off screen, they gotta have some kind of visual for him to react to, right, or something, or like.
Well, if he's that badass of an actor,
like that's why they have stand-ins, right, for actors. It's like so you can play off of each other's like.
Right, but according to where. If you're going by what Tony is seeing, he's not seeing anything except the HUD and outside. So he shouldn't be reacting to anything.
Whatever. Anyway. So that part of the movie, actually, where Ant-Man shrinks halfway, was in one of the trailers. And I was like, okay, that's kind of a funny bit.
Right.
But what I'm glad is that wasn't the only part of the movie that was funny. Like... I know I've been saying this a lot, but there's just like so much in this movie. The trailer didn't even give any of the good parts away.
It gave away one good joke that I still laughed at when I saw it, and it's when Paul Rudd is trying to stop a truck. And like it's a quiet cafe, and you see him just kind of.
Yeah, nobody laughed at that in the theater because they were just like, we've seen
really? I laughed at that.
I gotta say too. When I go to see movies in the theaters, I feel like I have like no reaction from the crowd ever, like nobody ever laughs or anything.
Right.
They were actually laughing at this movie, and so so if we skip ahead a little bit, right? There's a part where that rich like oil salesman guy or whatever the
The guy who's selling the parts.
Yeah.
Okay.
He comes and he finds Luis at X-Con.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, we're going to give you truth serum. And we're going to make you tell us all about Ant-Man and where he's at. Because they escaped and they went off into the woods or something.
Right.
Everyone was laughing their ass off at that part. And I was like, damn. Like,
I told you, Michael Peña.
I know, dude. I was
funny.
like, dude, people like this fucking guy. Like, he
They
stole the show.
He's like, it's this special concoction. Oh, dang, is that truth serum? It's not truth serum.
Yeah.
Dude, I think it's truth serum.
Yeah.
The way you're describing it is truth serum. Like, that whole truth serum thing with the payoff at the end.
Yeah, and it even had a little payoff at the end, so I was like, whatever, it's fine. I mean, I don't hate it or anything. But it's just like, they had one of those scenes where he, like, explains shit.
Right.
And I was like, they fucking had to do this again.
Okay,
like,
but it wasn't as long as the last
It
time.
wasn't as long, and it wasn't as bad, honestly.
Plus, it was actually kind of like, it served as a little bit of exposition. So you understand what happened between Ant-Man 1 and 2.
Yeah, it wasn't nearly as... I mean, I haven't seen Ant-Man 1 in a long time, but
should watch it again.
It probably wasn't that bad in the first one either. But this fucking dude behind us, this like teenager was like dying at that part. He
was probably tweeting, "I'm dying."
Yeah, he was like, I was like, you're gonna need the fucking defibrillator and like bring this guy back to life because he's fucking dying. He's out of breath right now. Because even like the movie kept playing and there were like serious parts and he was still like fucking laughing at that one joke. Whatever.
The whole movie kind of crescendos at this one chase scene where Steven was talking about just right now, where the snake oil salesman guy, the FBI, everybody's after this lab because, like Steven said earlier, they shrink down the lab so they could take it with them. And the lab has this, quantum tunnel thing that allows them to go into the quantum realm. So they're all chasing it. Meanwhile, Hank Pym is down there in the quantum realm trying to find his wife, which he does find her. Spoilers.
Yeah.
He does find her. And it was Michelle Pfeiffer, by the way.
Yeah.
Which I was like, I knew that, but then when I saw it, I was like, oh, right, she's in this movie. And I was happy. And I was like, oh my gosh, she's got so many credits to her name. And I was like, oh, this is great. This is the second time she's played a superhero.
So let me talk about that for 1 second, because that was the other thing. Hank has an old Ant-Man suit. And it looks,
that's right.
It looks badass. It looks like the old like one that had like the astronaut helmet.
Right. With the antennas.
I don't know if it had the antennas.
No. The old one had like a little antenna.
Yeah.
So and it had the thing in the front.
But I saw that and I was like, dude, so they went through the trouble of making a costume for this guy too. Like they're giving Michael D his fucking
Michael D?
They're letting him wear the suit. Like that's so cool of them to let him like, sport his outfit and all that shit. And then he gets into the quantum realm, like you said.
Right.
He almost gets eaten by this weird, like, fucking amoeba germ thing.
Yeah.
And then he gets down and he meets the Wasp. Wasp has... Old Wasp, sorry. She has, like, magical powers now that, like, stabilize people.
Yeah, because when Hank is down there looking for her, he has a similar look to him as Ghost, where it seems like there's different versions of him.
He's like phasing out, yeah.
So she touches his head and she's able to kind of stabilize him. And I think she explains this as they're getting out of the quantum realm. She's like, when you're here, it changes you.
Yeah, she says
you're able to adapt.
Yeah, she says it's part of it is adapting, part of it is evolution. So to me, I was like, yeah, whatever. Okay, that's fine with me. I don't care. Like,
it works because then she was able to heal Ghost.
What was cool is it was like her costume was all beat up and shit. Although, where did she get that like weird like Luke Skywalker hoodie thing? I don't know where she got that. They didn't explain that. I don't know if it's quantum energy.
Well, there is material down there.
Okay.
Because like they were standing on something, so matter does exist at that stage.
That's where the movie's kind of like, I don't want to ask questions just because I don't like. This is the kind of movie where I had such a good time watching it. I was just like, I really don't want to care about these stupid details. But it's like, okay, she's got to piss, she's got to shit, she's got to eat, right? Like, or no, she's just been down there for 30 years. I don't think she stinking up the joint.
I don't think she has to piss and shit. I don't think that.
Yeah, because there's some weird thing about the quantum realm, like you don't actually exist parallel to our universe or something, right? Like she aged, obviously, but I don't think it was like the part where she said evolve.
and how she said it changes you.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's a result of that, of her exhausting her body. Like, because she's always obviously been trying to get out herself.
Right.
So it could be her body breaking down because she's literally using it up, trying to do these things. So that could have aged her.
Yeah, who
but
knows?
In that realm, according to Hank Pym, it is devoid of time and space.
Okay.
So time doesn't exist.
Yes,
Space does. Yeah, exactly. So I don't know. It's very trippy.
Whatever.
As to where that exists, because then they're like standing on firm ground. I was like, wait a minute.
And see, also, this is the other thing too. It's like it's kind of like Star Wars, where like those situations come up, and in my head, I'm like, I'm gonna question that, but then a second later, I'm like, you know what? It's Star Wars. It's Marvel. There's a comic out there that explains this shit, so I'm not even gonna bother. You know, like
yeah.
And I mean that in a good way. Not like I'm not trying to shit on the movie. I'm saying like they probably got it covered, so I'm just not gonna do the thinking at this moment. You know what I'm saying? Like
a better illustration is like when they say, "Oh, how do we do all this stuff?" The Force. Well, what's the Force? The Force is this vague thing that we're gonna try to explain to you.
No, not even that.
And it's like, I'll accept that.
Not even that. The fucking the bombs that were dropping in Last Jedi. Everybody was like up in arms about like, oh, you cannot drop bombs in space.
That's not how they exist in space. And I was like, really?
And as soon as I saw that, I was like, well, they're just gonna have some explanation because they always do, right?
Yeah.
And then sure enough, it's like, oh yeah, the bombs create like some kind of microgravity that allow them to drop. And according to our friend Kevin, they drop bombs in Empire and shit. So who cares, right? It's like it's been established already.
Listen, before Kevin gets to talking in the comments section,
I haven't said anything bad about Star Wars. For the record,
we've already had that conversation in the Star Wars after Christmas
Star Wars
special.
episode,
So if you want to go talk about that, go talk there. But I'm saying it's like the Force in that it's vague enough that it can expand where it needs to. But it's enough of an explanation where you're just like, okay, that sounds good enough where I'm going to be like, I can use that in my head. That's the placeholder. I can enjoy the rest of the movie.
By the way, that scene, I feel like there was a lot to take in that scene where Hank is going Hank is going into the quantum realm.
Right.
I'm not sure, but it seems like that thing that he was in was probably something from the comic books. Like that little bug looking thing that shrinks.
I'm sure like I said, I'm not a huge Ant-Man fan. Except for this movie. So I don't know all the things he has in terms of ships and everything, but I bet you that's pulled from the comic books.
I really dug that whole scene though. As he's going into the tunnel, you see the lights reflecting onto his helmet, onto his space helmet. I was like, this is cool. This is amazing. But so anyway, so they go in there, they get old Wasp out, and it turns out that she can heal Ghost to some extent, right?
Right.
She has enough quantum energy built up in her body so that she can stabilize her for a little bit.
Right.
And for the first time in a long time in a Marvel movie, I feel like, maybe it's just because I saw Infinity War, I was like, this movie's actually going to have a happy ending. Because all four of them were standing there, and I was just like, oh, they're all going to live? This is fucking great.
Well, okay, before you get that, because you were talking about the Crown from earlier now. The things that you saw that were attacking his ship, they're an actual thing called tardigrades.
Okay.
And they're these little biological micro beings.
Tardigrades.
Tardigrades. And they can actually resist these big nuclear events, and they'll just be fine even when we're long gone. Because they could be hundreds and hundreds of years old.
Okay, so those are actually
those
real.
are actual things to show you how small
he was.
He was.
No, I get it.
By the way, those are the kind of details that I like because they were in this space. These things are attacking him, and it's to kind of show that okay, there's real danger down here. That's what kind of the illustration of it. But they took something that was real science, to blend into this pseudoscience kind of stuff. To kind of give it a little bit of a little credit. Yeah. So anyway, cool. You were saying about the movie ends kind of on a big high note.
Yeah. So after the chase scene or whatever, he turns big. Did I already talk about that?
Yeah, he turns the biggest I think he's ever been because essentially he tries to get the snake oil salesman tries to get on a boat. And he's like, you know what? Jumps into the water, turns soups big. Yeah. So big. He grabs grabs a little thing, and then is able to get the thing back to land.
Cameo by our boy Tim Heidecker.
Tim Heidecker.
Yeah, which
doing
is
his best Tim Heidecker.
Which is hilarious.
What is that?
I don't know if I should explain it here. I'll give like a brief explanation as to why Tim Heidecker's in this movie. If you saw Ant-Man 1, in Ant-Man 1 he works at Baskin-Robbins. He has a boss. His boss is Neil Hamburger. Neil Hamburger works with Tim Heidecker on a show called On Cinema that's online.
Right.
It's on Adult Swim's website.
YouTube channel.
Yeah, YouTube channel. Greg Turkington, who is Neil Hamburger, he is talking about how he was an Ant-Man, and he gives it a great review.
Right.
And Tim Heidecker is shitting on the movie and saying it's a bad movie because he wasn't in it. And he was actually in the Fantastic Four movie that came out at the time. And that movie flopped very hard. And I find it so hilarious because I'm like, did Tim know that this movie was going to suck? That Fantastic Four.
And that's why he wanted to get into it so he could use it with his
So he could
show.
use it as a bit, right? That's fucking hilarious. Now, Ant-Man 2 comes out and Tim Heidecker's in it and Greg's not in it. So it's just a little funny gag that they have. It's almost like this little meta. Like, inside of Ant-Man, there's like this joke that extends out into the real universe.
By the way, I just want to point something out. I haven't seen Fantastic Four. I don't know what Tim's cameo is in that one.
He's just sitting on a couch.
Okay. Greg Turkington has a speaking role. Like, he's important to the story.
Yeah, he's his boss at Baskin Robbins.
He's like, hey, can I come over? And he has a whole interaction with Paul Rudd.
Tim Heidecker's, is literally just
Tim Heidecker's literally on a boat going, hey, what is that? Yeah. But I just love it because Greg's character's like, it's literally Greg Turkington. Like, he's playing... The part that he's playing on the cinema show is literally who he's playing in Ant-Man.
In Ant-Man, okay.
It's essentially the same character because he has the same mannerisms. That's his shtick.
His shtick, if you will.
But Steven was going to mention the ending, and I think this is where a lot of people are like... This is where people hop on or hop off, I think.
This movie it ended on a real high note, right? Mm-hmm. The credit sequence was done with little toys. I don't know if you got to see that.
Yeah.
But they were done with like little toys, and it was like, okay.
They recreated all these big scenes.
Yeah, it was cool. And then the after credit scene comes, the story one.
Yeah.
Because what I've noticed is that like Marvel will do their animated credits, they'll do their story specific after credit scene. And then they'll give you the boring credits, and then they'll give you like a boring after credit scene if you actually.
It's usually a little joke.
Yeah, this one was really stupid.
Like at the end of Civil War.
What's the joke?
It's Captain America going. So now we need you to learn about disappointment.
Oh,
it's like waiting for something and not having a very good ending.
It's the fucking meme, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
No, it's not the meme.
It's not the so.
It's not because that's when he's in detention. He's like.
So you fucked up or whatever.
Exactly. Yeah. So you're in detention.
I love Captain America so much. Sorry, not to get too off topic. I'm gonna go back to the credits right now. There was this post on Twitter that was like, but when is Chris Evans not Captain America outside of the films? And it shows him like on the set of Avengers 1 and he's sweeping. Like he's helping out the crew by sweeping in the Captain America suit. It's ridiculous. Okay. Anyway, after the credits, so they're on a rooftop, right? So it's old Wasp, old Ant-Man, new Wasp, new Ant-Man. They're in the ex-con van, right? They built a smaller quantum tunnel that fits inside there. And old Ant-Man's talking to old Wasp, and he's just like, all right, so we just got to get the energy.
They probably just shrank the one they had.
Yeah, that's true. I didn't think about that. So they're like, okay, so now that we have our new ghost friend around, we need to go collect and harvest quantum energy so that we can constantly keep her alive, stable, and whatever, right?
Right.
So they're going to send Ant-Man in there. So they send his ass in there. And he's in there, and he's like opens this little capsule thing, and all this energy gets absorbed into it. And he's like, "All right, guys, I'm ready to come out. I got the energy.
Pull me up."
Yeah, pull me up, guys. And they can't. And he's just like, "Guys, what's wrong? What's wrong?" And then it goes to outside of the quantum realm, back to the world, and they're like in dust. So so Thanos happened, obviously.
Right.
And Ernie was talking about how like. Was Ant-Man supposed to die? And because he's
okay. Let me kind of propose this because I know a lot of people were talking about kind of the implications of it in terms of how it kind of soured the movie. Mm-hmm. So, like, the emotional implications to the audience. Like, everything ended so great, and now Thanos, right? Kind of shows how everything exists in this inclusive world. I get it. But my my theory or my gripe with... I don't know if I would call it... let me just say theory. So...
Game theory.
Again, Hank has always said that the quantum realm is another realm.
Yeah.
Somewhere where the laws that we know don't exist.
Right.
Right? So when Thanos snaps his fingers, essentially he eliminates half the population. In my head, I was like, so did Ant-Man circumvent that decision? Like, was he taken out of the equation because he was in the quantum realm, which made his little group, maybe one more person out of his little group died because of that? Because he's not there to balance out that
I don't know,
four
actually.
people.
That's a good question.
Right?
The way you put it makes it sound like he's kind of an asshole now.
Well, he didn't know it was going to happen. But I wonder if he had been there, would there have been a different outcome? Because remember, it's like half the Avengers went away and the other half stayed.
Yeah.
So if he had stayed, would it have been like half and half? Or would have they have all gone? Like, who was supposed to die? But we don't know because Ant-Man is like in quantum realm.
Ooh, post your theories down below in the comments section. I'm just kidding. Don't do that. You know,
also,
I don't.
Would the snapping finger affect Ghost if she was phasing? Because
I don't know.
technically it's a bunch of different versions of her.
I don't know because, yeah, I get what you're saying. And that's just kind of like how Marvel movies work, right? It's like you think that there's this high tier thing and it turns out there's something stronger and even more high tier, you know?
Yeah.
So in my head, I'm almost like, okay, so Thanos is like a god in this world, right? Mm-hmm. But it turns out there's more than just this world now. Right. So it's like he's only one of like many possibilities or whatever. So it's like, shit. Like, now Thanos kind of seems like he's not as strong if they can actually harness this quantum energy stuff or whatever. Or like,
right, something that exists outside of Thanos.
Yeah. Which is cool. It's just like, it's... The way they're doing these Marvel movies is just so like...
They just build and make their world bigger.
And not just that, though. It's like... It's like somebody like Ant-Man, who you think might not be significant, now is significant. Even though he doesn't have an Infinity Stone or whatever, he has like this quantum technology.
Right.
It's insane to me how like it's almost like just when you think someone's becoming irrelevant, right?
Right.
They do something and it's like, oh, now they're relevant.
They've added
like,
this other piece of the puzzle.
Yeah, it's like, oh, now they're... Exactly, it's like a puzzle. Like, all these guys are fitting together and it's all very like...
And they do a very good job of keeping them separated. For example, in terms of location, they're on the West Coast.
Yeah.
And the Avengers mostly takes place in New York on the East Coast.
Yeah,
and then
true.
all over the globe. So that's kind of why they're separated. The other thing is that Hank Pym and Tony Stark used to work together. Mm-hmm. Or I should say Tony Stark Sr. used to work together. Or his dad or whatever. And so when Paul Rudd in the first one goes, first thing we need to do is call the Avengers. Is like, Tony Stark, I'd rather give my inventions to this guy than let the Starks have it. Mm-hmm. And he said Starks.
Yeah.
Because he's worked with,
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the one thing. It's like
that's how they keep them separate, but somehow there still exists so that like his technology and Hank's technology could theoretically work together later.
Yeah, it's like, say what you will about Marvel movies. I get it, superhero fatigue and all this shit.
But does it feel like that, or does it feel just like a story?
Well, what I was gonna say is like, it's like this is what the DC movies don't do. The planning on their part is just always bad. Mm-hmm. Like, look at how well this fucking timeline is laid out. Like, give or take a few, like, mediocre movies or even like TV shows. It's like Defenders, right? Mm-hmm. But it's still like finite. You're still gonna get the timeline no matter what, and it's still gonna make sense, and there's still gonna be integral parts of the story spread throughout this kind of like map of things, which to me is like fucking impressive. Like,
I mean, I made this point in our Avengers movie or our Avengers podcast, but the fact that they've kept Tony Stark's injuries constant throughout the entire movie, because he's the missing link throughout all of them, I think is really, really great. Like, for example, the bruises that he gets at the end of Civil War, they keep them in Homecoming.
Yeah.
Because supposedly he's coming home from that. And then at the end of Homecoming, before they go to Ultron, all the bruises that he... or sorry, not Ultron. Infinity War. The bruises that he gets at the end of that movie show up in that movie.
Okay.
So it's like the consistency is so detailed that even the fact that he got punched in the face in Geneva, in Germany, when they come home to drop off Peter Parker,
okay, yeah,
he still has the remnants of a bruised eye.
Yeah.
Before he comes home.
Timeline is very important to Marvel. I would honestly like to see what the quality control, I guess, is like at Marvel or like.
Well, I think it's a big story that they have kind of planned out. Mm-hmm. And I think it's a dedicated amount of people who are there to keep the chronology of the movies together.
Like, I want to know who gave Guardians of the Galaxy to James Gunn.
That's a great idea.
It was, but it's like, you looking at his backlog, it's like Super and like, what else did he do? Like, all these other movies that I haven't seen, but like, that's my point is like, who the fuck knows who this guy is? Turns out he's perfect for writing like Guardians of the Galaxy. Like, how do you, like, this movie is done by Peyton Reed. I don't know who that is. I just looked it up, but I don't know who that is. But it's like, where are they grabbing these directors from? And they're not going the normal, like, I guess I should say, like, hack route of like, oh, let's get Zack Snyder or let's get like Michael Bay to do this. You know what I'm saying? Like, they're grabbing people from the woodworks or whatever, you know, whatever the term is. Like, they're.
I think what they do is they find they don't. When you talk about
like Taika Waititi for.
No, I understand what you're saying. I think Marvel doesn't need anybody to like superhero up a story. What they need is a good storyteller.
Yeah. And
I think that's what they search for.
Yeah.
Because the movies that James Gunn had done, like Super as being a big example, it's like this deranged story, but people liked it because even though the person in it who's played, like, it's the guy that plays Dwight
Rainn
Schrute.
Wilson and Juno.
Right. The person playing in it, somehow you're able to get some heart even out of that story, even though this is a deranged man who dressed like a superhero and beats the shit out of people, like for real.
Yeah.
And it's not any kind of glamorous, but you give him a story about a little boy who was sold off into slavery and is now searching for answers for a family. That's a story that you can tell, but like then they're like, well, so he didn't run away, he was kidnapped by a spaceship. He's like, okay, but the story is there.
Yeah, you know what, actually, Guardians 2 is a good way to compare this movie. I felt like Guardians 2 in a lot of ways was better than Part 1.
I do too.
I saw Part 1 and I was like, okay, it was fine, I don't need to watch that movie ever again. I saw Guardians 2 and I was like, I immediately want to watch this again. Like, it's just filled with so much stuff. It's just packed with so much shit. Like, I want to watch it multiple times. It feels like there's details that I'm missing on just one viewing, you know? So,
I mean, I still love to watch the first one because I love origin stories, but I think that's why I still enjoyed Ant-Man 1. I still watch it a lot because I think Paul Rudd pulls that whole movie together.
I know you love that movie. It's constantly on in our house.
But I think it's because the first movie is Hank Pym's movie, and this one feels like it's a Paul Rudd movie. Mm-hmm. Even though they're searching for the Wasp's mom, it's his story as it relates to everybody. Like, he's trying to be this superhero while still trying to follow the law. Mm-hmm. It's such a nice little story.
Okay, so we're out of time.
We're out of time already?
I'm sorry, Ernie. But I think it's a pretty unanimous yes from both of us.
Yes, go watch it. Especially watch it in theaters because it's one of those movies that because of the, and this is a pun, because of the scale of some of the effects,
nice, yeah,
they're best watched on a big screen, big movie theater with all the sound that goes with it.
I had a great time watching this in the theater. Like, I give a movie so many points for the theater experience, you know? Like, I don't know. I had a blast. What a great way to start my day at 10 in the morning. Minus, you know, the other kids sneezing and all that shit. But yeah, so, well, that's pretty much all we talked about, right? I was going to say final thoughts.
Well, final thought is just shout out to Steve. Thank you again for inviting us out to
to the
Lost Levels, to the SC3 festival.
Yeah.
Really fun.
We did finish Mario 64 So if you want to go watch that, because we hardly finish games on this channel, so...
Well, it's because they take forever. But after watching the speed runs and everything, ours is going to look pretty pathetic. But we had a lot of fun filming it, so please go check it out.
It was fucking great. I love Mario 64. I want to play it again already.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that does it for this week, guys. See you next week.
See you next week, guys.